Hello, this is the fourth in a set of 4 videos where we've looked to address a student's question about some problem they're having with their code and build on that and kind of highlight a couple good techniques. In this final video, we're going to take the code from video 3 and we're going to fix it up a little bit more. And if you're just jumping in now, I suggest watching all 4 videos is probably a good way to see the progression. But what I'm going to talk about specifically in this video is how to use the return statement and this idea of getting out of a function as soon as you get what you want and why that's good. So what happens here is I type in a country, I hit click me, and then it essentially searches a list in our JavaScript file and then outputs that information about that country. If I put a country here that doesn't exist in the list, I get a default message. Okay. So all I've done from the previous example is I've taken the same HTML file and I've just changed this to livebuild 3, and I've taken the code from livebuild 2 JavaScript and copied it into livebuild 3. So these are exactly the same. Okay, so in the last video, what we did was we removed one of the variables and we talked about how by setting location to -1, that assumes that the country we're looking for is not in the list. And so what I can do is as soon as I find the country, I just say location is I, and then I can break which exits the loop, and then I can just check the state of location. If it's not equal to -1, I know the country is there and I can update. Otherwise, I know the country is not there and I use this default message. But another way to do this is I can instead do my updating inside this if statement and then exit the function. So if I change this break to a return, let's see what happens here. And before we do that, just so you know, what return does is it stops the function and leaves. I could return a value. If I just hit return, it just stops it. So notice if I save this now and come in here and I refresh this and I put in Canada, I don't get any message. But if I put in Japan, which is not in the list, I get my message. And the reason that is because I enter this if statement, I set the location to I, and then I return, meaning I'm done. The function doesn't do anything else. It doesn't jump to here like the break function does. So what I need to do is I need to take this updating and I need to place it before I actually do the return. Now, the beauty of this is that I don't need that if statement anymore. That's one less decision for the computer to kind of have to process. So I can get rid of that if statement altogether because the code will only reach this point if the country is not in the list. Because if the country is in the list, I will enter this if statement, I will actually update my display and then get rid of the function. So if I save this now, and give this a refresh, and I put in Canada, and I click me, and it works perfectly. If I come in here and I delete this, and I put Japan, click, no problem. Now there's one last thing you might see and say, I can make that even simpler. And you're right, there is. Because I'm actually doing the updating inside the loop, I can use the value I instead of this other variable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of this variable LOC. I don't need it anymore because I'm doing the work or updating the display inside the loop where I actually know the index value. So I'm going to come across here and I'm not going to use LOC anymore. I'm going to use I, and I'm going to use I. And now if I save this, refresh this, and I type in Canada, you see it works just like before, no problem. And the bigger idea here is this idea of this getting out of the function. When you're trying to develop, when you're learning to program, programming is about problem solving. And all the code aside, one of the questions to ask yourself is, can I make a decision as soon as I find what I'm looking for? Or do I have to look at everything before I make a decision? And in this case, as soon as I find what I'm looking for, I can do what needs to be done. I don't have to wait till I get through the whole loop and then go through and make a decision. And this just optimizes our code a little bit more. Again, with 4 elements, not a really big deal. But if I had 4 million elements, this does become a big deal. I hope this video helped, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great day.